And welcome to this tutorial video on recording real-time feedback, observations, and performance results using Google Forms and Google Sheets. You'll notice here that I've created a form. This video is primarily going to focus on the tools and aspects that you can use within Google Sheets, but Google Forms are a great way to input data into a Google Sheet. Within this example, I'm going to be looking at collecting student data from a phys ed class, recording student run times over a series of classes and or weeks. You'll see that I've created separate questions for each student with places where I can submit their time through a short answer text response. Now, when I go to the live version of this form, this is what it'll look like. Simple and easy to use. What I can do at this point, I can put a student's time in. I can put it across all students if all students are performing or running. If students are missing, I don't have to submit as it's not a required question. Or I can continue to record scores. Once I submit, I can look at the results within my Google form in the response area. Now, in the response area, it'll give you a summary of the responses for each question. In some cases, it'll graph the responses for you in a summary. If this is what you need in terms of analysis, there's no need to go any further. But what you can do within any Google form is find this button here where you can create a spreadsheet. And you can create a spreadsheet and all results from the form will export to the spreadsheet. You can also select existing spreadsheets if you want to have the data from multiple forms submit to a single sheet. We're going to create a new spreadsheet in this example. Once I click Create, it takes and summarizes all the data from my form into a single sheet, where we can graph, analyze, or make interpretations or inferences based on this data. Let's take a look at a couple simple things that we can do to analyze this data. Since our Google Sheet shares most of the major functions of an Excel spreadsheet, a lot of the functions that we'll be highlighting will be similar. For example, the Functions button here highlights most of the major calculations that you can input into a set of data that you'll use. For example, this is a set of athletic run times, so we'll use the average feature to find the average run time for each student. If we highlight Ryan's scores, click on Function and Average, it brings us in the calculations into that cell that are necessary to do that. All we have to do is hit Enter, and it calculates the average run times for that set. We can do the same for Bill, and we can do the same for Anne. Also embedded into Google Sheets is a chart feature you'll find here. We can use this to create some pretty powerful charts that are preset and created for us simply by creating or identifying the set of data that we'd like, clicking on the chart, and identifying the chart type that we'd like to choose. If we choose this, for example, it's going to lay out Ryan's run times individually. You can take this chart and embed it into other docs and or tools if needed. You can also choose multiple columns if you'd like. The same feature to compare different runners and or data sets. Now, these are two of the more major tools that you'll use when analyzing data, but there are others. These will be covered in future videos that are more specific to each of those aspects. Now, let's take a look at how you can use forms and sheets to collect anecdotal data in terms of examples like student conferences and or interviews. So you'll see we've come back to a Google form, very similar to the first form we used to record student run times. We're going to use this as a data entry tool for anecdotal data during student conferences and or interviews. The only thing we've changed is that each student's name is still a question, but now we've used a paragraph style answer to provide more area to type in terms of anecdotal evidence. Now, if we go to the live form view of this, we can put in some data for each of the student. For this demonstration, we'll put the same data in for each student. Obviously, this would be different as you conferenced with students throughout a class. And when you're done, you can click the Submit button. What will happen here is the data that you just submitted within that form automatically populates to our spreadsheet. Now, initially, it will not look as clean as it needs to until you set the text to be wrapped, and now you get a nice layout of that anecdotal evidence that you're collecting for each student, along with a timestamp so you can chronologically record when that evidence was recorded. It's a nice way to collect and summarize anecdotal evidence into a single document over a period of time. If you have any further questions, please let us know. Have a great day.